Alright, everybody. So, welcome to another weekly sky update brought to you by UNT's astronomy department. So, my name is Oliver, and I'm going to be y'all's host today. It is July 25th at about 2 p.m. So, normally we would be transitioning to our new method of doing this, where instead of live streaming it, we would be doing pre-recordings. Unfortunately, I had some technical difficulties, and my video file is corrupted for some reason. So we're going to be doing this live. Probably going to be one of the last couple times I do it, but hey, just letting you know that is going to be the new format here. Of course, everything else will still be the same. It will still be about 2 p.m. on Saturdays. It's going to be a weekly thing, hence the name Weekly Sky Update. And of course, you can also use y'all's donations as we have been. Of course, during the circumstances with the pandemic, we are not able to get in the same income, so this would help us out a lot, and it would really help us if you guys are enjoying what we're doing here. So that being said, it's a good intro, but let's get into the meat of it here. So I have my Stellarium program open. I do have a few settings changed to suit me, but we do know that we're looking in from Denton, and it is about 2 p.m. on the sky right now, but let's go ahead and change the time to be looking at about 10 p.m. here. I am going to change a few things though to not ruin a few surprises. So I'm going to go ahead and start with north because I want to first of all recap a few things. So we know that this is the North Star, which is part of the Little Dipper, and we also know that there's a few different ways we can find it. The easiest way is probably using the Big Dipper inside of Ursa Major. Go ahead and turn on the labels for that as well. So, of course, that's one way that we can do it. When we have Ursa Major here, we take the 2 stars, which is hidden by the M here, but connecting up to Dubhe, the alpha star of Ursa Major. In case you all don't remember, the alpha star is the brightest star of the constellation, so pretty good hint, this is the one you're looking at here. It's going to be really bright. So you'll just connect that forward, basically continuing that imaginary line here, and that will give you the North Star. Of course, another way that we can do it is going from the opposite direction. So you'll see these little zigzag group of stars right there, and that is actually Cassiopeia. So Cassiopeia is another way that I do it. Let's say that I think in a couple hours I should be doing this. So obviously this is 3 a.m. and we don't really need to pay attention to that. But in the case that the Ursa Major is below the horizon here, maybe behind some trees or buildings, then it's not really the best method for finding the North Star because we can't even see those. So what we do is we go to the other side here and find it with Cassiopeia. But we don't really need to worry about that right now, but there is another reason why I'd like to look at Cassiopeia. So really the reason why I showed the North Star, the North Sky really, is because it's a good grounding point. As we know from previous talks, that it's the part of the northern hemisphere that doesn't ever set. So we can always use that as a guide, as a reference point. But it's also a good reference point to maybe things that are just outside of the northern region. So I'm getting to kind of one of the spoilers here, which is the Perseids. So the Perseids are a meteor shower that are going to be visible around this time of year. So I believe peak point for that would be, oh, where did I enter Cosmos 25? I'm getting a little sidetracked here, but that's kind of cool. It's a satellite. All right, yeah, so we have a few satellites on right now, and that's one of them that I just happened to click on. There's another one going by. But another thing that you guys can look out for here that Stellarium does actually have animated are the meteors coming out of the meteor shower. I do believe it's still fairly early on. Like I said, peak season should be like mid-August, August 11th through the 13th. But you should still be able to see hints of it leading up to it. So the Perseids, they are named such because they come from the Perseus constellation, which I think we should be able to see if I click. Let's go ahead, 1 more hour. Yeah, let's go 1 more hour, so, no. I'll just go ahead up to 2 a.m. briefly so that we can see what Perseus looks like and where it's located. So it's just outside of the circumpolar region here, just I guess south of Cassiopeia, northeast, if you will. So this is Perseus, and the Perseids are going to be coming from this general area here, and they're going to be going in basically all directions outward. So pay attention to that, if you will. You might be able to see a few meteor showers, but that is something to look forward to here around this summer season. So let's go back to 10 o'clock. I'm going to shift S back to, oh, yeah, there we go. Let's shift S back to south because that's really, the Perseids are really the main reason why I wanted to go to north in the first place. But of course, to really get a good refresher on the whole reference point and how the sky works, how it moves, and all that. So looking at the south, it's got a lot going on. It's very busy right now. So first of all, we can see this big boy here, which is the moon. And the moon is actually inside of Virgo, pretty dead center actually, so that's really good for us because obviously when we're looking in real life, we don't have these connect the dot lines and labels and all that, so we really just have to use our imagination here. The moon, it looks like it would be a full moon. We'll click into it because it looks really bright, and if that's the case, then it is actually going to okay, so I guess it's not. So it's going to be sort of bright regardless. So it might take out this part of Virgo here, but at least we know that it's inside of Virgo, which is a good reference point to the rest of the sky here. So since we have Virgo up here, hopefully Spica, its alpha star, should still be visible, of course, because that is the brightest star in the constellation, as we've covered. So now that we have this up, we can keep going left a little bit. We can see these stars right here that kind of make like a kite, kind of like a diamond thing, and that is actually going to be Libra. So Libra is a little bit harder to spot, admittedly, because, well, first of all, the moon is going to be taking a lot of the light here. But also Libra just isn't as, I guess, it's just a square. I mean, it's just a square. So Scorpius has a lot more defining features going on here. Of course, it probably gets its name from this little curve right there, really signifying kind of like the curve of like a scorpion's tail, hence the name. And of course we have Antares here, which is pretty bright. It's its alpha star, as we know. And of course we have these three stars over here, which sort of split out open. So there's a lot more going on in Scorpius that is easy to spot. And lucky for us, as it would be tonight, it's actually just above the southern point. So since we talked about everything that's in the northern sky earlier, if we find all that and we know where it is, we can just do a complete 180 and turn around, and we should be looking right at Scorpius. So really good positioning here, and also just really easy to spot. So it's good that the whole thing is out and all that. So already we've kind of have I have talked about the ecliptic line. So like I said, it's kind of just that line that goes above the southern hemisphere, or not southern hemisphere, the southern sky here. And it's basically all this, it's the pathway of everything that we see from Earth. So it's all just an illusion, but it's basically the pathway of the moon, the sun, and the different zodiacal constellations, which of course these are of. So we got Virgo, Libra, and Scorpius. So if we were to go left just a little bit more, that would bring us to Sagittarius. So Sagittarius, I think I've probably talked about before in the sense that I like to use this as an example of why your imagination matters more than sort of things that exist in terms of the patterns here. Because you really have to use your imagination when looking at the sky, right? Because you don't have all these labels and lines. You just have to like see, okay, I can sort of see that image there, and we know that Scorpius is to the right, so this is probably Sagittarius. Now, another way that you can do, I mean, you are going to be doing that still, but a good practice is sort of like knowing what to look for in terms of like images, like pictures and stuff like that, more than just the stars. So for example, Sagittarius, if I were to turn on the art, we'll see that Sagittarius is kind of like this centaur with a bow and arrow. And the bow and arrow is kind of what extends Sagittarius outward here, closer to Scorpius. But I don't really see that personally. I can see why they think it looks like that, but I see more of a teapot. So we see kind of like the handle, we see the spout, and then we see sort of the lid up top here. So the reason why I say all that is because it's really up to you. You're using your own guides to find certain parts of the sky, and if you're trying to look for a centaur with a bow and arrow and you can't find that, that's making it way harder for yourself. When I think really this would make it a lot easier. So all that being said, I really actually like to drive that point home, especially today, because Sagittarius is actually important because we'll see these two big dots right there are not actually stars, but in fact planets. So I'm going to go ahead and just turn the planet label on. I know it comes up here in the corner, but it's good to just know to have like a visual guide here. So Jupiter is closest to the center of Sagittarius here, and it is the bigger of the two planets. So Jupiter, really both of them, but Jupiter especially, is going to be really, really easy to spot tonight. So I urge you guys to look out. We can already tell that we're looking southeast, but we know if we look perfect south to Scorpius and go a little bit left, you should be able to see these in the sky. And Jupiter is bright enough that you can see it with your naked eye. You don't need a telescope. You obviously won't be able to see like its features, like the big red dot or anything. But you will be able to spot it really easily, which is the important part. And of course we have, let's just zoom in on it for the heck of it. So of course we got Jupiter here. So this next thing I'm going to talk about, you would need a telescope for, and that is to see its moons. Because in some cases it is bright enough and they do orbit in front of it, so you would be able to see kind of like a shadow there. So really cool there. And then also, Jupiter is not alone. We have Saturn. So Saturn is also really big and bright, so henceforth you can see it therefore you can see it with your naked eye. So one thing that you actually would need a telescope for is to see its rings, but that's actually the really cool thing, is it doesn't even need a super powerful telescope to see that. In fact, some of the smaller telescopes that we use for the public during our star parties, during normal operation, you would be able to see the rings of Saturn here. So that's really cool. We know that it's one of the gas giants. It's really, really big. So this is a really cool thing that we can actually see it with our naked eye. It just really drives home just how big it is, at least compared to the view of the stars around it. So if we just want to keep going, actually, no, I'm going to stop right here to really encompass everything we've talked about. Let me do Shift S. There we go. So we started from the very right here with the moon, and we've gone all the way to Saturn. So if we keep in mind that range, we've seen Virgo, Libra, Scorpius, and Sagittarius, along with these two planets and, of course, the moon. So there's a lot going on, but at least they're all very close together, and we can sort of get a good idea of what's going on here in terms of like the way that the Earth is orbiting and how other planet orbits are also affected by this. Not affected by it, but how when certain orbits get closer to us, it does allow us to see certain planets, where other parts of the year they might be too far away. So, alright, we've talked about the Pleiades, we talked about Jupiter and Saturn, of course the constellations to help us find that. So let's talk about Altair, just because it's been up here and trying to get noticed, wants our attention. So Altair is the alpha star of Aquila the Eagle, which is shown by the constellation art there. So Aquila, there's different ways to say it. I say Aquila. I really like this constellation, and I've grown to like it a lot more because if you'll notice, it's actually within the UNT Astronomy logo, because UNT's mascot is the eagle, and Aquila is one. So I think it's pretty clever there, pretty cool. So just a little fun fact about us. Alright, so there is one last thing that I really want to talk about. It's going to be in the east here, and we are going to have to change our clocks a little bit. So this one is a little bit harder to spot just because it does require you to get up really, really early in the morning. So if I were to go ahead and Mars does come up also, but I really want to show you Venus. So you'll see that Venus is pretty big. It's almost as big as Jupiter, or I guess probably closer to Saturn. But it's big enough that you would be able to see it with your naked eye. In fact, I actually tested this myself this morning. I happened to be up at around 4 a.m. and I was just able to see it just above the tree line here. And so you can look out for that. Venus, just because, we all know that the different planets are orbiting around the sun, and Venus as well as Mercury are both closer to the sun than Earth. And so what that does is that when the two orbits cross, they cross at really odd times. For Venus, it would be in the really, really late night or in the really, really early morning. So one thing to really show what's going on here, so that you guys can sort of understand the orbits a bit better, is I'm going to go ahead, well, first I'm going to center this. And then I'm going to go ahead and just speed up time through the minutes here. And I want you guys to pay attention to what's going on with Venus as I do this. Oh, wait, maybe that doesn't work if I have it centered. Or it's because my stellarium settings are different. No, there we go. Okay, I just was not patient enough. Alright, so obviously daylight is up now, so this wouldn't be something you would see with your regular naked eye, and of course you're speeding time up. But you'll notice that Venus, it is really big and bright, so that does allow us to see it with our naked eye. But over time, the orbit is going to take the planet further and further away, which is why it appears to be getting smaller. So knowing that, we can tell that because it's so big right here, that's how we know that its orbit is really close to Earth. So really cool thing to look out for. If you really feel like getting up super early, you can see it with your naked eye as well. So I believe that should be everything that I think is interesting going on in our night sky tonight. Of course, you can always comment and we will answer back. Let me actually check the comments now, because we're actually doing this without a moderator. Like I said, I would be doing this pre-recorded. But let's see, do we have any comments? That should be everything. Okay, I'm not seeing any comments on the Sky Theater page. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out, but I hope you guys enjoyed everything and maybe learned a thing or two. And can also appreciate just how much time goes into this, because the sky is always changing, and we do our best to really show you guys just how everything works and tie it all together. And so we're having a lot of fun doing this. So keep in mind, we are going to have that donation link up. It does help us a lot, and it does help us going forward. So y'all have a very great day, and happy star hunting.